Hi and welcome to the latest episode of Lancashire Legends. I'm Warren Hegg and today I'm over the moon to be joined by one of the most graceful and stylish batsmen to play for India. A player who represented the Red Rose between 2007 and 2009, scoring over 1,200 runs, an amazing average of 61.85 with 6 half-centuries, 6 hundreds, and a high score of 135 versus Hampshire. He was so close to winning the championship in 2007 when Mark Chilton's team just failed in an amazing run chase at the Oval. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our latest guest on the Lancashire Legends, VVS Laxman. Laxy, how are you doing, mate? Great to see you.
Yeah, same here, Warren. Thanks. It's a real pleasure to talk to you. As you rightly mentioned, 2007 and 2009, wonderful memories. I was in fact privileged to play for such a wonderful club. We all know the history of the club, how good a cricket team Red Rose was. But what really I was impressed was each and every club member was so welcoming. Each and every club member was so passionate about the game. And that's something which I was really impressed with.
That's fantastic. And you said your memories of Lancashire cricket and playing at Emirates Old Trafford. You came from India where you really shone as a player. But what are your memories of actually getting out there and playing on that stadium of ours?
Oh, probably one of my favorite grounds. I know now they've changed the entire alignment of the ground because at that time I think the wicket was east-west, if I'm not wrong. But wonderful ground. I really enjoyed batting on that wicket. Even though it was in Lancashire English conditions, but the wicket was almost like an Australian wicket where there was true bounce. And as the match progressed, and the third and fourth day, it almost became like a subcontinent wickets where the spinners were getting extra bounce and turn off the wicket. But really enjoyed, because I was on the tour of England with the Indian team 2007. I played the test matches, did really well in the test matches there. And then Mike Watkinson, who was the coach of Lancashire, called me and he told me that they were looking for a replacement for Brad Hodge because he was going to the T20 World Cup in South Africa. And right from my younger days, I played club cricket in 1995 and 96 in Bradford. And I thought that was instrumental in me becoming more professional and more independent, and I understood myself as a cricketer and as a person when I played in the Bradford League. But I always dreamt of playing county cricket, but I never got an opportunity because since the time I made my debut in 1996 for India, I never had an off season. Every year I was quite busy. But luckily in 2007, because I'm not part of the one-day team and the T20 team, I took it as a real opportunity and embraced the opportunity. And in fact, Warren, my career sort of resurrected because of my stint with Lancashire. When you play international cricket, and I made my debut in 1996, it was my 12th year in international cricket, and day in and day out, you always are trying to play with a lot of intensity. The responsibility on your shoulder. And while doing that, sometimes you can lose the love for the game. You lose the love for the game. Sometimes, you're only thinking about the outcome. You're only thinking about your performances instead of going out and enjoying the game. And that was a perfect opportunity for me where for 7 weeks, spending time with the Lancashire boys, playing the county matches, traveling around England, the kind of training sessions I used to have at the Old Trafford Indoor Academy, sort of rejuvenated the love for the game. And suddenly I started enjoying the game back. And as it turned out, 2007 to 2011 was probably the most productive years in my international cricket. So actually, the stint with Lancashire sort of rejuvenated my career.
That's exactly right. I was speaking to a lot of former players, Laxy, and you've just absolutely nailed it there. That when we're kids, we look forward to every game of cricket, whether we practice on a Tuesday night and we go and play on a Thursday night, and then we play the game on a Saturday, and we have that love for the game. And you know what? And sometimes when you do become a professional cricketer, that love seems to be replaced with a little bit of fear that we have pressure. that you have to perform, and you gave our members, our supporters at Lancashire some wonderful memories. But you mentioned Mike Watkinson as the guy that signed you. What do you remember, Laxi, about some of your teammates at that time?
Oh, I think it was a fabulous team. I was a little apprehensive because it was almost half season or more than half season. And the team was in the mid-table. They were doing well. So I was a little apprehensive how I will be welcomed into that Old Trafford dressing room. How and what kind of reaction the players would have when I joined the team. But right from the first day, starting with the coach Mike Watkinson, Captain Mark Chilton, and then the senior players in the form of Stewie Law, they made me very, very comfortable. And I still can't forget the way Diana Lloyd, because she was the one who liaised my travel from Oval, where we played the last test match, to Manchester. I was with my family. I had a son who was just 7 months old, so young family. But the way she coordinated right from till the time I took over the house in, I think it was in Didsbury.
Didsbury, that's correct.
Didsbury, yeah, that's where Brad Hodge was staying. It was a 3-level, I think, a townhouse there. So she made sure that everything was comfortable, because I told that I'm having a young kid. So the entire house was child friendly, and that was the minutest detail which Diana Lloyd took care. And also each and every member wanted to make sure that I'm very comfortable, and automatically you feel wanted. And when when you're made to feel wanted, you feel that you have to give it back to the club, and I was wanting each and every match, not to score my personal runs, but always to go out and try and win matches for Lancashire. That was my mindset. And wonderful team, Stuart Law. I learned so much playing along with him, standing in the first slip. He never gave up his second slip position. Because for India, I always stood at second slip and Rahul Dravid in first slip. But Stu is also, no, sorry, Laxi, you have to stand in the first slip. I'm in the second slip. And he was a senior player. And then Mark Chilton, even though he looked very serious, but he had a very dry sense of humor. And I thought he was a good leader. And then, you had a lot of youngsters coming into the side. Glen Chapple is someone who I was, again, very, very inspired. I impressed and inspired. The reason I say inspired is the kind of workload a fast bowler has when you're playing day in and day out. You travel from one county to other county, and I think at that time it was 107 overs a day. But the way Glen used to bowl, the way he used to manage his workload, the way he actually used to go aggressive at the batsman, he knew when to go defensive. And that's why he's been so successful, and that's why he had a long career. In fact, even now, whenever I talk to young fast bowlers, I always give his example. Even in a test match, or even when you're playing first class cricket, how you have to be smart about your bowling. When to attack. If the conditions are in your favor, you go aggressive and pick up wickets. When the conditions are not in your favor, you just do the holding job. And that's why Glen is probably one of the most underrated player or bowler I played along with.
Absolutely bang on. And now Chappie's the head coach and passing on those skills to the younger element.
Fantastic. Even then, Warren, there were a lot of young fast bowlers who were coming into the side. And while Glen was the senior bowler, but he always used to pass his knowledge. He always used to talk to the youngsters, talk about the technical aspects, talk about the mental aspects. And that is another good thing I found in the Lancashire dressing room, that every senior was ready to share the knowledge with the youngsters, with the second team players. And that's why I think it's always been a progressive county team.
That's fantastic. And one person that did play in that side, Laxi, and I just have to ask how your ears are after that experience. Obviously, Dominic Cork. I
thought you were going to talk about Murli also. Both Murli and Dominic Cork were part of the side, and then Murli unfortunately got injured when we were playing against Kent. And even now, because Murli is a mentor along with me for SunRisers, so I have to still, spend time with him, which is great. Murli, such a wonderful guy, and I in fact call him Mr. Cricket. We call Mike, I say Mr. Cricket, but it's Murli who's actually the Mr. Cricket. Day in and day out, every minute, all he talks is about the game. And there was such a contrasting atmosphere in the dressing room till the time Murli was there and Dominic was there. There was not one bit of silence in the dressing room.
I'm not
Both of them,
surprised.
yeah, both of them continuously chatting away, pulling each other's leg. There was so much of banter, and the moment Murli left, suddenly the dressing room was, a very serene dressing room where there was no chatter. It was very quiet, But both of them great cricketers. Murli, obviously, we all know what a legend he is. But Dominic Cork, I always tell that if I would want a player in my side who will take on the opposition team in any situation, any condition, whether home and away, it has to be Dominic Cork because he was a real fighter. And when I played against him, when I played for India against him, I never liked him. But when I spent time with Dominic at Lancashire, I actually got so much of respect for Dominic. He's the player you want in your side. He's the player you want with you when you go out for a battle or a war. He's fantastic team man and a very aggressive and a great competitor.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. An absolute great guy, but Laxi, an absolute pain in the backside. So we'll move on from that.
Yeah, but pain in the backside maybe for the coaching staff or the captain, not for his teammate.
Well, listen, Gary Yates, another Lancashire stalwart.
Yeah.
He's been on record as saying that you were the best batsman for Lancashire, the best player of spin bowling ever. Obviously, playing on the dusty wickets in the subcontinent. What did you bring to your game when the spinners came on? How did you go about your game?
Well, as you know, growing up in Hyderabad in India, day in and day out, you're playing against quality spinners. And with years of hard work, with years of experience, your confidence level just builds so much. And you played on some tough wickets where the spinners always are on top of you, and that's when you know how not to allow them to get into rhythm, how to break their rhythm, whether it's using your feet. Because I was not someone who used to play the sweep shot so well. So I had to use the crease well, the depth of the crease to play more on the back foot, also step out and get to the pitch of the ball. And luckily for me, right from younger days, I had great wrist work. So I had the ability to maneuver the ball on both sides of the wicket with the turn or against the turn. But it came with a lot of hard work, and a lot of youngsters come and ask me how I did that. I think the secret or the formula to do that is to reach to the pitch of the ball, not allow the ball to turn or not give the space for the ball to turn. Once you do that, once you cover the spin, once you cover the bounce and you reach to the pitch of the ball, then you can play against the turn as well. And I believe that when you're playing against quality spinners, you have to have a lot of confidence in your defense. Because I have seen, even in international cricket, the players who don't have a strong defense are forced to play attacking shots because they feel that because they're not confident with their defense, any moment they can get out. So they choose a ball which is supposed to be respected and try to play a compulsive shot. So I always believed in having a strong defense and never allowed the bowler to get into rhythm. Because once you allow the bowler to bowl the line and length he wants to bowl, then he's dictating terms. And against spinners, you're not allowed to allow them to dictate terms. So using the feet, using the depth of the crease, having a strong defense, and then reaching to the pitch of the ball and playing on either side of the wicket is what I always try to do.
That's great advice, Laxi, for our young players in and around Lancashire, especially the academy players. And playing against spin is one of the hardest disciplines in cricket. And our lads went over to India in February before the lockdown and did some real good work against spin and playing on those dusty wickets, like you said, against quality spin is practice makes perfect, really. But let's talk about one of your greatest innings and probably one of the best innings that the world of cricket has seen. And the 2001 series against Australia, the 281 versus our old enemy and a real big competitor of the Indian cricket team about Australia. Tell me your memories of that knock and that situation, Laxi.
Well, I think that was probably the most satisfying knock in my career, a career-defining knock. And more importantly, not only for me, but the players from both the sides, if you ask them in their career, which was the toughest series they've been part of, they would probably say that the 2001 series against India, if you ask any Australian player, it was the same for us, because it was a fantastic Australian side under Steve Waugh. They had won 15 consecutive test match, and Steve Waugh himself told that that was going to be the final frontier, because they beat all the sides, not only in Australia, but going to their own, traveling overseas and winning and beating the home side is never easy. But Steve Waugh's Australian team did that. And when they came to India, they beat us in 3 days' time in Mumbai, and they were in a very commanding position come the second day of the Eden Gardens test match, where we were, on the third day morning, we were bowled out, and we had to follow on 274 runs behind. And then rest is history. But what I really remember is, personally, I was promoted at number 3. It was Saurav Ganguly, the captain, and John Wright, the coach. Both of them took that call of making me bat at number 3, because in the first innings I scored 59, but I scored that at a very brisk pace, where even though Steve Waugh had all the fielders on the boundary, I was still able to pierce the gap and hit boundaries. And that forced them to send me number 3 so that I can be aggressive and be positive in my approach. And as it turned out, I went on to bat, I think, more than 1.5 days. And Rahul came at number 6. He got a brilliant 180. We still had to bowl well to beat them on the last day, because they had to score less than 400, and it was a very formidable batting lineup. Anyone on their own can win the match, and all of them used to score almost 3.5 runs, 4 runs per over, and still it was a good batting surface. But as it turned out, Harbhajan bowled well, Sachin came and he bowled a spell where he got 3 wickets. Everyone contributed and chipped in. And we went on to win probably in a very dramatic fashion, where Glen McGrath was out probably in the later part of the mandatory overs. Overall, that win actually gave us a lot of confidence that we can beat any side, not only in India, but anywhere in the world, because of the situation we were in. Probably the most satisfying and a memorable test match and test series I was part of.
It was unbelievable, unbelievable view, even for someone not from one of those countries. But Laxi, you played against Australia. You've played in really big matches in your career. You've played IPL games where pressure is massive. But tell me about the Lancashire versus Yorkshire games. Did you manage to play in one of those, the Roses games?
I did. In fact, in 2007 I played, and also in 2009 I played home and away. And I still remember the match we played at Old Trafford. Because of the point system, I think if you maximum of 5 batting points, if you score, I think 400 or 450 runs, I don't remember the exact number. Yeah. And I still remember that me and Loye were having a partnership, and I reached my 100. Loye, again, what a freak he was! Unbelievable batsman who can sweep the fast bowlers. I mean, he was just unreal, man. yeah. So, and then suddenly we realized that we had to get that extra point, because both of us were going aggressive. And the last over, which was, I think, Adil Rashid was the bowler, and we still required some 17 or 18 runs to get that extra batting point or the full batting points. And I still remember my celebration. I got that 18 runs. I hit Adil Rashid for 18 runs in that over, and I still can't believe my celebration. I was like surprised, because even after getting 100, I didn't show my emotions. But once we got that batting point, not only me, but the entire crowd, they clapped. I mean, that sound was deafening. That sound was deafening, because that was the competition between Yorkshire and Lancashire, the red rose versus the white rose. And then I realized what it meant for a Lancashire player to do well against the white rose. And even now we have, Johnny Bairstow is part of the SunRisers team. So I still pull his leg, because I am a red rose guy. And he's a white rose guy. But that I still remember, because getting that one extra batting point was so important for all of us. Instead of celebrating after scoring 100, I celebrated after getting that extra batting point and scoring 18 or plus in Adil Rashid over. But I gathered the history behind the rivalry. History behind the rivalry just across the Pennines. There's so much of, in a good way. I would say the banter, whatever happens whenever we're playing against Yorkshire, there is no animosity, there is no personal issues, but it's more about the pride of the Red Rose and the pride of the White Rose followers, and that's at stake. It's almost like when India plays Pakistan. That's the kind of intensity I've experienced when Yorkshire plays Lancashire.
That's exactly right, and you're very correct in what you say that once the game is finished, you have the best friends. Most of my good friends on England tours were Yorkshire lads who we got to know really well, and we had some fun. We supported the same football teams. We had the same humour. We liked the same food. So
is it Yorkshire guys follow Man U?
Oh, yeah, they do, because there's no, I'll get in trouble saying this, but there's no good football teams in Yorkshire.
I know that. And I've always been a big follower of Man United, since 1995, when I came to play club cricket. The matches were only on Saturdays. So the whole week I was free. I used to watch football on telly. And Eric Cantona was the captain of Man United. And I became a big fan of Eric Cantona. And since then, I've always followed Man United. They gave me a lot of happiness, but at the same time, they gave me a lot of sadness as well.
Laxi, I feel your pain at the moment because I'm the same as you. I feel your pain. but Laxi, a terrific cricket career, and you gave lots of people lots of fun at cricket games. But times move on. We come to the end of our careers, and you moved over into a coaching stroke, a mentoring role. And you mentioned before the SunRisers Hyderabad. Now that you're still very much in there, and we see you on our TV in the IPL. How's that transition been?
I think the transition has been very smooth. And the reason I say that is even during my playing days, I always used to share my knowledge with the youngsters. I still remember when I was playing for Lancashire in 2009, there was just some fabulous young, talented youngsters. Paul Orton, there was Crofty there, then Faf, who went on to lead South Africa, he was a youngster then. And there were a lot of young cricketers who were just emerging. Smith was there. Tom Smith was one of the youngster. Newbie, the fast bowler, was there. So there were a lot of young players, and I always wanted to share my knowledge. Always wanted to share my experiences because I was lucky when I started my career. There are a lot of senior players in Hyderabad and with the Indian team always helped me to evolve. And the process of evolving was quicker than probably some of the other players who didn't have that access. An opportunity where the senior players became the mentor. So I think the transition was very natural. The transition was very smooth. And it has been real satisfying experience mentoring the SunRisers team. And IPL is such a unique experience, almost similar to what I experienced playing for Lancashire or before that in the Bradford League, where there is only one overseas pro, which is, in this case, it was me. But I am actually spending time with the English players who have got total different culture, upbringing than what I had in India. So I think IPL is such a fabulous tournament where you have players from different parts of the world, you have players from different parts of the country, and you still have to get them gelling, and you have to create that atmosphere where there is a huge amount of team bonding, camaraderie is there, and everyone plays with one objective in their mind, one goal in their mind to win match and win the tournament for the franchise. So I think the experience mentoring the SunRisers franchise has been fantastic, and luckily for me, all the players I worked with, right from the senior most international players to the junior most uncapped Indian players, everyone have been very receptive in the various discussions, various suggestions I gave them, and that's why it gives me a lot of satisfaction. And I feel that once I finish the game, I think it becomes my responsibility to share my experience with the youngsters. And if they realize their dream, just like the way I was able to realize my dream of playing international cricket, I will be very, very satisfied. And that's what I'm trying to do. And still being connected with the game, because the game has given everything to me. Whatever I am today is because of the great game cricket. So it's still a great way of being connected with the game and at a very good standard, because IPL for me is no less than a World Cup, is no less than any international tournament. The competition is good, the amount of visibility is good, there's so much of following, and I think it's a fantastic tournament.
You know what, Laxi, what you mentioned the IPL there as being a fantastic tournament, and yes, we watched it this year. The lack of cricket in the world over, really, because of COVID, has been really sad. But the IPL this year was held in the Middle East, in Sharjah, in Dubai, and Abu Dhabi, and you could still see it still came over. The competition was there. The will to win was there. The great players who you mentioned, world-class players on every side. Wherever you look, there's a world-class player. But they have that element of helping out the domestic, the Indian guys. And as a coach, that must be a real good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, I think probably this was the most closely fought IPL since IPL started in 2008. And everyone were a little apprehensive because there are no spectators in the ground, because when you're playing in India or IPL have always been about so much of energy, electric atmosphere on the ground. So everyone was a little apprehensive how the players' intensity as far as the game is concerned will be, whether their intensity will drop or whether they will still maintain that intensity. I feel the intensity has been fantastic because all of them are professionals and they know the value of performing for their franchise. And I always feel that the players, the uncapped Indian players, are actually the biggest beneficiary from IPL, because day in and day out for almost 2 months they spend time in the changing rooms, in the practice session with world-class players, legends in their own right, and there's so much to learn. And luckily all the legends, all the international players both from India and overseas are ready to share their knowledge. And I think spending time with them will allow them to evolve quickly. And I think the biggest beneficiaries have been the uncapped Indian players. And that's why you see someone like a Natarajan, who just made it into the SunRisers playing 11 this year for the first time. Because of his performances in the IPL, he went on to make his debut against Australia in the third ODI. So I think that's the kind of confidence booster IPL is for the young uncapped Indian players.
That's brilliant. We're not going to take much more of your time, but I'm going to put you on the spot. You played all over the world. You played against the best players at the best grounds in the world. Who, in your opinion, was the best batsman you played against and the best bowler you play against?
Well, the best bowler, Wasim Akram. I mean, you've kept to him. You know what a class bowler is, how skillful he is. For me, Wasim was probably the most skillful bowler I played against. And I tell because he had so many variations with the new ball, with the old ball, but more importantly, he knew when to use them. Because a lot of bowlers have variations, but sometimes they don't know what conditions and what situations to use them. Wasim was a master of swing bowling. And I was also, it's very tough when you play 16 years of international cricket to just pinpoint one bowler. But Wasim was probably the most skillful. But then I was fortunate enough to play against Curtly Ambrose, Glen McGrath, Jimmy Anderson, and there was Dale Steyn. There's so many world-class bowlers I played against, and spinners in Shane Warne and Murli. And I was very fortunate to play and compete against the best in the world. As far as batting is concerned, again, they were great batsmen in my generation. But there were two batsmen who I always enjoyed competing against, watching them, the way they played their game. One was Brian Lara. I mean, absolute, graceful looking batsman who had abundance of talent, made batting look so easy. That's typical left-handed elegance. So Brian Lara, and then Ricky Ponting. Ricky Ponting was another batsman who I felt always looked to put pressure on the bowlers, always played with a lot of positive intent, and he was also sensational. And again, it's very difficult to choose just one or two, because there were greats like Jack Callis, who was an unbelievable all-rounder. I mean, the name and the list goes on, because I was fortunate to play in a generation where the competition and the level and the standard of the game was just unmatched. There were world-class bowlers in each and every side. There were world-class batsmen in each and every side, and that's why the competition was excellent.
Well, you know what, Laxi, Lancashire have been blessed with many world-class overseas players, from the likes of Clive Loye to Wasim Akram to Murali to Sourav Ganguly, like you've mentioned. You are one of those players that we're very, very proud to call a Lancashire lad. And listen, we really appreciate your time and joining us on this series. A fascinating insight into batting, and especially against spin, which I'm sure our younger players will really love to take on board. Goes without saying, Laxi, that you are welcome at Emirates Old Trafford at Lancashire Cricket anytime you want. But let's just touch before you go off this. Is the subject of India coming over to England this summer? It's going to be a great series. Two really, really tough sides. And I think India will be a team to be reckoned with.
No, absolutely. And India, I thought played really well in their previous series to England. Previous tour, I thought they had chances. They had moments where they could, if they would have won that moments, they would have probably won the test match and won the series also. But they were not able to win those crucial moments. But under Virat Kohli, one of the important targets and the goals Indian team has is to beat teams in their own backyard and win overseas series. So I'm sure that it's going to be a fascinating series, and that's what we want. As a true cricket lover, we want a good contested series where there is a good contest between bat and ball, and hoping that it will be a very fine series against two good sides.
Fantastic, Laxi. That is absolutely brilliant. VVS Laxman, thank you for joining us on this series. It's been great to catch up with you. Brilliant to see. Keep yourself safe, and we'll look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Yes, thanks, Warren. And my best wishes to every member and everyone at Old Trafford. It's been a real pleasure, a privilege playing for the Red Rose, and I always very fondly remember the season 2007 and the 2009 season. Thank you very much for all the love and affection.